serial rapist Malcolm Rewa, he has gone on trial for the third time for the murder of Susan Burdett more than a quarter of a century after she was bludgeoned to death in her South Auckland home. Rewa has already been convicted of raping the 39-year-old, but two juries have been unable to decide if he murdered her. Today, more than 2 decades after he last faced a jury, the 65-year-old man, with the help of a stick, walked into the dock at the High Court in Auckland. Our reporter, Annika Smith, was there, and just a warning that some viewers may find details of her report disturbing.
Crown Prosecutor Gareth Case began his opening address by taking the jurors back to the scene of the crime.
Susan Burdett was found dead in her home on Wednesday, the 25th of March 1992. She was lying naked on her bed. The upper half of her body was covered in bedclothes, a duvet. The lower part of her body was uncovered and naked, and her legs were hanging over the side of the bed.
Susan Burdett had been last seen 2 days prior, leaving a local bowling alley in good spirits. Colleagues grew concerned the following day when she didn't show up for work. Her friend, Stephen Dawson, later found her body in her Papatoetoe home.
Mr. Dawson called for help and police arrived shortly after. As part of the police examination, the bedding covering Ms. Burdett's head was peeled away. Brain matter and a significant amount of blood was found on the sheets underneath. A bra was found over her eyes.
A year after Ms. Burdett was killed, 17-year-old Taina Porter told police he did it. He spent more than 2 decades in prison, but his name was later cleared when the Privy Council quashed his convictions. Mr. Case told the jurors Rewa had already been convicted of raping Ms. Burdett, and it was the Crown's case that he murdered her too.
During the course of the rape, there was a struggle. The accused covered the upper half of her body with a duvet, and when she was in that position, he hit her at least 5 times to the head with a blunt object. Ms. Burdett kept a baseball bat by her bed, and when she was first seen by her friend Stephen Dawson, that baseball bat was lying on the bed next to her.
Mr. Case said the jury would hear Rewa had carried out a series of sexual attacks on other women between 1987 and 1996.
And the Crown says that they involved a number of recurring features. The exposure of the lower half, naked lower half, of the women's bodies, the covering of the upper half, in particular the head, with clothing or most commonly bedding, and the positioning of the legs of the victims off the edge of the bed.
He said these attacks were often surprise rapes in victims' homes and revealed a pattern in Rewa's offending reflected in Ms. Burdett's case.
These features are all hallmarks of Mr. Rewa's sexual and violent offending. They bear a number of significant similarities to the offences he committed between 1987 and 1996. And the reason why Ms. Burdett's rape and murder bears those similarities is obvious.
Rewa's defence lawyer said his client was innocent after his first 2 trials and was before the court again an innocent man. Paul Chambers said the jurors couldn't help but be influenced by widespread media coverage of the case and asked that they consider only the facts they heard in court. The trial before Justice Venning is set down for 4 weeks. Antuiti ko te mātua ko Annika Smith aho.